divides us well into an organized structure of a great lesson. Miss Aini, your English tutor on Klinik SPM 2022, brought to you exclusively by Maxis eKelas. Now, in this second part of our English class, which I will be going live on Zoom Tuesday, 6th of December from 8:30 until 9:30 p.m., we'll be looking at how we use the CLEAR acronym to answer part 2 of the SPM English writing paper. This year, Maxis is bringing you 5 SPM subjects, which are English, Bahasa Melayu, Mathematics, Science, as well as History. Now, if you're interested to join any of these live sessions, feel free to click on the link below in the description. And guess what? These classes are all for free. So if you're interested and you would like to know more about the timetable, go on and click on the link below. So I hope to see you in the next class. Bye-bye. Hai kawan-kawan semua, selamat datang dalam Maxis eKelas Klinik SPM 2022 #hebat dalam exam. Apa itu Maxis eKelas? Maxis eKelas adalah sebuah program komuniti perdana Maxis yang membawakan pembelajaran digital untuk semua pelajar Malaysia. Inisiatif ini menawarkan cara pembelajaran yang menyeronokkan melalui penyediaan akses percuma kepada kandungan pendidikan berkualiti dan pelbagai aktiviti menarik. Masih ada yang belum mendaftar? Jom sama-sama kita ke portal Maxis eKelas untuk daftar ke dalam. Segala maklumat, pelatihan dan kuis untuk Klinik SPM 2022 juga akan disediakan di portal ini. Sila layani pautan yang diberikan untuk mendaftar. Kami juga ada peraduan Klinik SPM 2022. Guru-guru boleh menyertai dengan memuat naik gambar atau video ulasan pendek beserta caption menarik di laman Facebook, Instagram atau TikTok. 20 penyertaan dengan bilangan likes yang tertinggi akan berpeluang memenangi voucher tunai KFC sehingga RM500. Muat turun gambar atau video menarik beserta dengan caption. Caption wajib disertakan dengan nama, sekolah dan nama kelas jika ada dan subjek pelajar yang hadir. Untuk maklumat lanjut, sila klik link di dalam chat. Kami juga bawakan sesi bimbingan khas dari Tutors in Action untuk 25 pelajar yang terpilih. Jadi, jangan lupa isi borang maklum balas dan borang kehadiran Maxis eKelas Klinik SPM 2022 untuk berpeluang dipilih. Sebelum saya memberikan pentas ini kepada guru kita pada hari ini, izinkan saya berkongsi beberapa peraturan untuk tutorial secara langsung ini. Para pelajar yang gagal mematuhi peraturan akan dikeluarkan daripada saluran Zoom dan YouTube oleh pihak pentadbir. Sila gunakan bahasa yang sesuai. Tiada spam dalam chat. Angkat tangan anda atau type jika anda mempunyai sebarang soalan kepada guru. Sebelum sesi tamat, sila isi borang kehadiran yang akan diberikan kepada anda selepas sahaja sesi daripada para guru. Baiklah, sebelum kita mulakan kelas pada hari ini, kata kita lakukan mood check. Bagaimanakah perasaan anda semua pada hari ini? Dari skala 1 hingga skala 10. Di skala 1, anda berasa sangat sedih dan di skala 10, anda berasa sangat gembira. So, di manakah mood anda pada hari ini? Type jawapan anda dalam ruang chat sekarang. Baiklah, terima kasih atas semua respon anda. Tanpa membuang masa, mari kita mulakan Klinik SPM 2022 tahun ini. Hai kawan-kawan semua, selamat datang dalam Maxis eKelas Klinik SPM 2022 #hebat dalam exam. Apa itu Maxis eKelas? Maxis eKelas adalah sebuah program komuniti perdana Maxis yang membawakan pembelajaran digital untuk semua pelajar Malaysia. Inisiatif ini menawarkan cara pembelajaran yang menyeronokkan melalui penyediaan akses percuma kepada kandungan pendidikan berkualiti dan pelbagai aktiviti menarik. Masih ada yang belum mendaftar? Jom sama-sama kita ke portal Maxis eKelas untuk daftar sekarang. Segala maklumat, pelatihan dan kuis untuk Klinik SPM 2022 juga akan disediakan di portal ini. Sila layani pautan yang diberikan untuk mendaftar. Kami juga ada peraduan Klinik SPM 2022. Guru-guru boleh menyertai dengan memuat naik gambar atau video ulasan pendek beserta caption menarik di laman Facebook, Instagram atau TikTok. 20 penyertaan dengan bilangan likes yang tertinggi akan berpeluang memenangi voucher tunai KFC sehingga RM500. Muat turun gambar atau video menarik beserta dengan caption. Caption wajib disertakan dengan nama, sekolah dan nama kelas jika ada dan subjek pelajar yang hadir. Untuk maklumat lanjut, sila klik link di dalam chat. Kami juga bawakan sesi bimbingan khas dari Tutors in Action untuk 25 pelajar yang terpilih. Jadi, jangan lupa isi borang maklum balas dan borang kehadiran Maxis eKelas Klinik SPM 2022 untuk berpeluang dipilih. Sebelum saya memberikan pentas ini kepada guru kita pada hari ini, izinkan saya berkongsi beberapa peraturan untuk tutorial secara langsung ini. Para pelajar yang gagal mematuhi peraturan akan dikeluarkan daripada saluran Zoom dan YouTube oleh pihak pentadbir. Sila gunakan bahasa yang sesuai. Tiada spam dalam chat. Angkat tangan anda atau type jika anda mempunyai sebarang soalan kepada guru. Sebelum sesi tamat, sila isi borang kehadiran yang akan diberikan kepada anda selepas sahaja sesi daripada para guru. Baiklah, sebelum kita mulakan kelas pada hari ini, apa kata kita lakukan mood check. Bagaimanakah perasaan anda semua pada hari ini? Dari skala 1 hingga skala 10. Di skala 1, anda berasa sangat sedih dan di skala 10, anda berasa sangat gembira. So, di manakah mood anda pada hari ini? Type jawapan anda dalam ruang chat sekarang. Baiklah, terima kasih atas semua respon anda. Tanpa membuang masa, mari kita mulakan Klinik SPM 2022 tahun ini. Hai kawan-kawan.
Hi and hello everyone. How are you doing? Hello everybody. Hope you're feeling great despite the unpredictable weather, I must say. Hello Idora. Hi. So I'm Miss Aimi and welcome to the English class everyone. So before we proceed, can I just get everybody to type in the chat box where you are tuning in from? Where are you right now? I'm currently in Penang, just so you know. What about the rest of you? Where are you tuning in from? Let's just have a look. Ooh, from Sabah, Idora. Hello, Sabah. Hello, Idora from Sabah. What about the rest? From Sarawak. Wow, from Pahang. Wow, we've got a great diverse of demographic here. From Johor, Sabah, Sarawak, Kedah as well. So good to see everyone. Right. So before we proceed, I'm just going to let you know that throughout the session, we will mostly be interacting through the chat box. But if you have any question, you don't have to wait till the end of the lesson. You can just type in your question in the Q&A box. So if you notice, there's a Q&A box, so you can put in your questions there. Okay, so without further ado, let's start the class, everyone. Let me just share the screen, yeah? Okay, I hope you can see. Can I get some reaction? Can you see the screen? Is it good? Is it clear? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay, I see some thumbs up. That's great. Okay, right. So if you have joined me in last week's English class, you may recall that we looked at how we answer part one of the SPM English writing, which is email. So if you remember, and you have joined last week's class, we talked about using the acronym GATES to answer email. This week, what we're going to do is we are going to look at how we use PEER acronym to answer guided essay. All right, let's get rolling, everyone. Okay, just in case you haven't joined me and this is your first time, my name is Miss Aimi Shahira Saleh. I'm currently an English teacher. I'm also a TOEFL master trainer So if you've done TOEFL in school, I'm a trainer, just so you know. I enjoy traveling, photography, coffee, cats, and occasionally Taylor Swift. Now I'm going to introduce some new vocab for you tonight. I'm claustrophobic, which means I get anxious in confined spaces. So if I were to take the elevator, sometimes I get pretty anxious because I don't like confined spaces. Okay. So why have I talked about phobia? Let's look at, okay, before that, the lesson objectives. We have 3 simple objectives tonight. Number 1, we are going to briefly look at the CEFR marking criteria for part 2. So remember, tonight we're doing part 2, the guided essay. And then we are going to look at PEER, the acronym PEER, how we are going to draft your part 2 using PEER. And finally, we're also going to learn how we write introduction and conclusion, because some people, sometimes they know how to draft all the content and everything, but when it comes to writing, especially introduction, they get stuck. Am I right? So how many of you agree with me? You find writing introduction really challenging. You don't know where to start. You don't know where to stop, you know, because some people can write really long introduction and that is unnecessary. Okay, so 3 simple objectives and also Q&A. Just bear in mind Q&A, you can have Q&A throughout the session, okay? Right. So why are we talking about phobia? Now, can I just get everyone to type in the chat box? When you look at guided essay part 2, what is your main concern? What's your biggest fear when it comes to part 2? So let me just see. What are some of your main concerns or some of your fears about writing? Can we type in the chat box, everybody? Just so I can see. No idea what to write. I know, writer's block, right? Yes, Shirley. Ideas. Okay, good, good. So hopefully with PEER tonight, it will help you develop the idea, okay? Other than not having idea, anyone's afraid of not having enough time? Do you know how long it's allocated for you to write part 2 of the SPM English writing? Same like Shirley, yeah, I know. Okay, so most of you are concerned with not having ideas. Hopefully, after the end of this session, at least we can get rid of that fear. If not 100%, at least get rid of it 80%. Okay, then we're good to go. I can't understand some of the words. It's okay, Harinita. Here's the thing about guided writing. Usually, because they want to cater to a vast majority of students, the choice of words would be in the low level of B2 of the CEFR, meaning is a level that you might have seen in the textbook or the level that your teachers have exposed you to. So it wouldn't be something so alien to you. You don't have to worry about the word choice of the questions, okay? All right, words not enough. I think after we look at PEER tonight, high mal, is it? You will have more than enough words. Okay, thank you for sharing your concerns, everybody. Let's move on now. Okay, first things first. Ashhanullah say I got a B+, but my words aren't enough. Okay, we'll have a look at the Ashhanullah. Don't worry about that. Now, first things first, just like last week's session, I have also talked about understanding the CEFR marking criteria. Why should you know the CEFR marking criteria? So that you know what to expect and what the examiners expect from you. So when you know the expectations, you'll be able to deliver. Okay, so now let's go on. All right, so this is what we're looking at tonight, everybody. Last week, we've looked at email. Tonight, we are going to look at number 2, guided writing essay. So what is it about number 2? It's a longer text than email, 125 to 150 words. Okay, so based on a text stimulus, meaning they would give you a text at the top and you have to respond to the text in about 125 to 150 words. So what you can do is, people, don't worry about vocabulary so much. Don't worry about not having ideas. As long as you know to follow the steps to draft, the PEER steps, then you will be good to go. You're on your way to getting better grades, okay? So let's talk about this intended CEFR level. What it means by B1 here. All right. So here, if we look at last week email, the CEFR level is A2. A2 meaning the marking would be pretty lenient. It's not going to be so strict because they've set the standard at A2. So when you have straightforward ideas, simple ideas, as long as they are easy to follow, you will be able to get high score. Now, for guided writing, it's B1. It's slightly higher than email, meaning the marking is slightly more rigid, but do not worry. It is still possible to actually get full marks for also guided writing. If you remember, last week I mentioned that it's not impossible to get 20 over 20 for email. It's again also not impossible for guided writing, although the marking is slightly more strict because you see the number of words, they've got more number of words. And of course, it's a bit more difficult, but nothing to worry about, nothing that you cannot do. Okay, now let's see how you are marked. Again, what's interesting about English, all the 3 essays, you are marked the same, using the same criteria. Okay, you've got the content, you've got the CA, you've got organization and language, and they're all, the full score is 20. But how are they different? Like I've mentioned, based on the level. So this one is a bit more lenient when the examiners mark. The one that we're looking tonight, guided essay, is slightly more rigid, but not as rigid as part 3. So I think for part 1 and part 2, it's very easy for you to score. All right. So C, C, A, O, and L. Okay, I see that everyone is very concerned about their grades. Don't worry, people. It's not the end of the world yet. So it's not yet SPM. You still have time to improve. Okay, I see question already. Teacher, can I use gonna in my essay? No, Shah. Not for email, not for part 2, not for part 3. Gonna, wanna, those are slangs. So they are forbidden in English essay. Okay? Right. Any questions so far? Does anyone have question? No? Okay, good. So let's move on. Okay, here. Let's have a look, yeah? Now, how are you? Oh, tomorrow is exam BI, so good that you're joining tonight. All right, so how are you marked according to the CEFR scale? Now, let's look at each scale one by one. Okay, if you look here on the left, that's how the examiner score you. But on the right here, this is the layman term or easier terms for you to understand. You may not understand this, all this jargon, but I have simplified the version for you. Okay, so let's see for C content, what are you supposed to do? So I've highlighted, yeah, the important keywords here. All content is relevant to the task. Target reader is fully informed. What does it mean? It means you answer everything that the question asks. So if you can recall, for part 2, there are 3 bullet points. So you must answer all the 3 bullet points. Okay? Target reader fully informed means the purpose is clear. You have a thesis statement in your introduction. Again, we will look at this when we learn about writing introduction. Okay, so that's for content. What about CA? Communicative achievement. You must use the conventions. So can I just quiz some of you who may have joined last week's class? What's the meaning of conventions? Because for email, CA, they also look at conventions. So if anybody remember, can you write in the chat box, what does it mean to use the right convention? Does anyone remember? A little bit of quiz here. Anyone knows? Anyone? Okay, never mind. I'll tell you the answer. So conventions means, let's look at here, yeah? Oh, no problem, Faiz. I'm going to tell you now. Conventions means when you use the appropriate style and tone of writing. So for email, the style and tone would be informal and friendly. But with that being said, even though it's informal, you cannot use slang. For guided writing, the style and tone would be formal or semi-formal, but it's a lot more academic sounding compared to email. All right, that's the meaning of convention. You write using the correct style and tone. Okay, now, and then using straightforward ideas appropriately. So see, you're not expected to come up with rocket science ideas. It can be straightforward, but well elaborated. So this is for CA. CA, basically, we look at your ideas. Are they well elaborated? So that's where PEER comes in, peer. And we look at your style. Are you using the right style? So it's formal, academic, and formal. All right. Now let's look at O. O is basically about paragraphing. All right. Text is generally well organized and use a variety of cohesive devices. Now, quick question. How many paragraphs would you always write for part 2? Usually, how many paragraphs would you write? Since organization looks at how you organize your whole essay. 5, 4 to 5. Yes, yes. Good. So you're on the right track. Usually the minimum is 4 paragraphs. Okay, you can write 4 paragraphs, you can write 5 paragraphs. Yes, very good. Okay, and with a variety of cohesive devices. So you have your sentence connectors, you have your linkers, then you're good. That's the meaning of organization. We look at how you organize your paragraphs. And if you have a variety of sentence connectors, linkers, and so forth. Okay. And finally, language. So let's look at language. I'm going to give you a few seconds just to read language alone, because language is important. Okay, look at my highlighted, the terms that I have highlighted. Okay, language. Now, what's interesting here is it says uses a range of everyday vocabulary. So I remember some of you saying that you're so concerned about vocab. Here, you can even use your everyday vocabulary. I mean, it's good when you have bombastic words, but you don't have to be bombastic from introduction until conclusion. It's just everyday important message that you're sharing in the form of an essay, but it's still acceptable and you can get credit for it, right? What is lexis? Lexis mean a group of words. So for example, in your whole essay, all the words are just commonly used words every day, which is also fine. You don't have a lot of bombastic words. You can still get a lot of credit for it, okay? Because remember, when you write your essay, you are aiming for the B1 level in CEFR. So everyday vocabulary, simple ideas, but they are well elaborated with sentence connectors. Okay? So here, what does it mean by peer? Okay, we're going to look at that, Hidayah. Hidayah is getting impatient. All right, Hidayah, we're going to look at that afterwards. Now, again, language, appropriate choice of words. Although they are everyday vocabulary, they must be appropriate. That's very important, okay? And then sentences are varied, meaning you have simple sentences, you have compound sentences, you have complex sentences. How do you have complex sentences? Once you have sentence connectors, your sentences will become complex. So not to worry about that. And finally, we don't expect you to write a perfect essay. You can have errors, but the errors are minimal and they do not impede reading, meaning we can still understand what you are trying to say. Okay, so far? Are you clear about how you are assessed so far, people? C, CA, O, and L, each with 5 marks being the highest. Clear, yeah? So when you know what are the expectation, you must remember when you write, when you draft, ask yourself, have I met all the requirements for C? What about CA? Have I got enough linkers for the O? And what about my language? Do I have errors? So these are things that you need to pay attention to when you are writing. Okay, all right, this is very helpful. Thank you, Kanchana. Okay, now let's go and look at what peer is. Now, peer, drafting your essay. Let's go. Okay, before I move on. So here's here's an overview how you write your part 2. Okay, again, I'm going to give you a few seconds just to read through. Pay attention to the highlighted keywords, yeah? Okay, all right. So you can have 5 or 4 paragraphs, no problem, beginning with the introduction. So in introduction, you don't use the peer yet. When do you use the peer? You use it in the content paragraphs. So if you are writing in 4 paragraphs, so your paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 would be your peer. If you write in 5 paragraphs, your paragraph 2, 3, and 4 would be your peer. And finally, your last paragraph would be the conclusion. So remember, 4 or 5 paragraphs, and you apply peer when you are elaborating the content. Okay, so guided essay usually uses present tense unless you have to write about past event. So this is why it's very important for you to read the instruction carefully. Okay, but most of the time it's present tense. Now, written in 4 to 5 paragraphs, about 125 to 150 words. You can write more, no problem. Full marks is 20, like we've looked at just now. C, C, A, O, and L. And then you have a variety of sentence connectors. And I want to really emphasize on this, yeah, everyone. You should spend only 30 minutes writing part 2. Okay, why? Because you have 1 hour and 30 minutes and you've got 3 essays. So 15 minutes for email, 30 minutes for guided writing, part 2, and another 45 minutes for your part 3. So for guided writing, make sure your draft and writing everything is complete in 30 minutes. Okay? And then your style is formal or semi-formal. No abbreviations, no short forms, no contractions. So contractions means when in email you can write I'm, I apostrophe M, but you cannot do that in guided writing. In guided writing, it has to be full. I am, it is, we will. Okay, all right. So yes, we are going to discuss that, Shah. Now next, okay, peer. What's peer? Right. Okay, finally, we've come to peer. What is peer, everybody? Now let's have a look. Again, I'm going to allow a few seconds for all of you to read on your own and try to digest. Okay, so this is the long-awaited peer. What does it stand for? Okay, read on your own for a while. Okay, so peer, again, as I have mentioned, here is only used in your content paragraphs, not in intro, not in conclusion. Here, P stands for point, your topic sentence. So what would your point be? E for elaboration. So you further explain your point. Usually you can use sentence connectors like this is because, this is due to, as we know. So when you use sentence connectors like this, examiners know this is the marking of an elaboration. Okay, and then it's followed by example. All right, so you give example. You can use sentence connectors like for example, for instance. So this is for example. And R, finally, you restate your topic sentence. Basically, R is just similar to P, but you rephrase, you change the sentence a bit. You re-emphasize what this whole paragraph is about. So sometimes I also add S. So you have peers, because just to remind everyone, you must not neglect sentence connectors and have at least 2 to 3 sentence connectors for every paragraph. Okay, so far, any questions about peer? Yes, Faiz, we're going to discuss introduction. Inshallah, hopefully we have enough time. Any questions so far about peers? Okay, you know what they stand for? You don't understand the last one. Which one, Shah? Is it sentence connectors or is it the R? Is it the R? The restate? Okay, so example of sentence connectors, we're going to have a look. Sentence connectors are, they're very important, yeah? students, sentence connectors, because in organization, when you are marked, examiners look at how many sentence connectors you have. Sentence connectors are words like, in BM, it's called penanda wacana. So for example, moreover, even though, furthermore, first and foremost. So things that connect one ideas to the other. Those are sentence connectors. The word length, at least you meet the 125 words. That's good enough. So some people, they tend to write really long and they write over 150 words. That's also okay, as long as you write within 30 minutes. Okay? All right. Technique, same with BM. Yeah, about the same for BM in English, actually. Okay, now let's have a look. You are going to try one peer tonight, okay? Right, next slide. Okay, so this is a question. This is how guided writing looks like. Is the second question in your SPM writing. Okay, again, a few seconds for you to read and digest on your own. Yeah, I see some questions, yeah? I will attend to that. If possible, people, could you please write your question in the Q&A box so that I can better attend to them. Penanda Wacana, yes. Oh, thank you, Mr. Ashanullah. Thank you for the compliment. Okay, do you mean adding the sentence connector in new paragraphs? Okay, Shah, like I've mentioned in the previous slide, let's see, let's just go back a bit. You should have at least 2 to 3 sentence connectors in every paragraph. At least 2 for every paragraph. So if you've got 5 paragraphs, you will have around 10 sentence connectors. It's not very technical, I mean about the number of sentence connectors, but it's good if you have quite a number, because in the marking criteria, it does say you have a variety of sentence connectors. Okay, and preferably not the same sentence connectors used from paragraph 1 until paragraph 5. We'll look at that. Okay, let's go back to the question, yeah? Okay, done, everyone? Done reading? Every paragraph must have at least 2 or 3. Yes, Shah. Two would be enough. 3 is also good. Okay, let me read for you, yeah? So part 2 is 20 marks. You must answer this question. Write your answer in between 125 to 150 words in an appropriate style. See, they've emphasized on appropriate style. That's why convention is very important. So what's the question here? Let's look at the question. You have been talking about the environment in class. Your teacher has asked you to write an essay about an activity, yeah, that you would like to try to help protect the environment. In your essay, you should write about, so there are 3 point forms here. This is what I meant by answering all the questions. So point 1, the activity you would take up. Number 2, reasons for your choice. Number 3, ways to encourage others to care about the environment. Write your essay using all the notes. Okay, quick questions before we begin. How many activity must you suggest? The activity you would take up. How many activity? Just 1. Yes, okay? Only 1. Do not give more than 1 because meaning you may have misinterpreted the question and this may cause you your content mark. So instead of getting 5, you may be getting 3 or 4 because they've only asked for 1 activity. Now, how many reasons? Reasons with an S. How many? More than 1. 2 would be enough. 2 is sufficient as long as there are more than 1. Now, what about ways here? Ways, again, you can give at least 2 as long as it's more than 1. And sometimes you can give 2 in your example. So it doesn't mean that you have to write 2 paragraphs on ways. No. In the example, if you've given 2 ways, that's more than enough. Okay, let's look at the question now. How we answer the question. Okay, step-by-step guide, yeah? There are 5 steps altogether. Number 1, Where does it say to write 1 or 2? Okay, Shah, it doesn't say. You have to read between the lines. Okay, so here, the activity, because it's singular, right? So you know that singular, they've asked for only one. Reasons, plural, because there's an S there, meaning you know they've asked for more than one, at least two. And then ways, because they've got S there, so you know at least two as well. So they wouldn't tell you one activity, two reasons, but you have to read between the lines. All right? Okay. Yes, cara jaga alam sekitar. That's right. This is what the question has asked from you. Cara jaga alam sekitar, betul? Okay, let's look at the step by step. It's also very important for you to follow these 5 steps, yeah? Okay. Now, number 1, read the question carefully and underline the key terms. Very, very important. Underline them. Number 2, draft. Jot down your ideas or related words. So if you know it's about environment, okay, you quickly scribble. Tulis, write on the paper, what are all the words that you've learned or you've memorized about environment. Number 3, draft your essay using peer. Okay, this is what you're going to do after this. All right. So once you've jotted down all the vocabulary related to environment, you're going to start drafting your peer. And then write your essay. Once you've got the draft, I would advise spend about 10 minutes to draft and then write your essay in 4 to 5 paragraphs. Finally, spend at least 5 minutes to check again. Must check your essay. Check for grammatical errors. Check that you've understood and answered the question. Very important. All right. So yeah, I've seen people sharing their ideas. Very good. Being a volunteer in a cleanup program, plant a tree. Yes, very good, Cik Rainbow, but you want to choose only one. You can choose either being a volunteer or plant a tree. Because remember, one activity only. Okay, now it's your turn to write. You've learned the 5 steps, right? 5 steps of writing. What to do once you've gotten the question. These are the 5 steps. Apply them. Practice. So let's look at, you are going to write now in the chat box. I'm going to give you some time. These are some ideas of activities you can do when you want to talk about saving the environment. Okay, so I'm going to let you look for a bit these activities. You don't have to write a full essay tonight. I just want to look at how you plan the peer. Okay, how you plan the peer. So let's go next. Okay, so I've done this in a form of a table so that it's easier for you to follow. But know that when you are writing your draft during the exam, you don't have to draw this table. You can just write in point form. Okay, so I've done 1 paragraph for you as an example. Okay, let's just go back to the question again. Look at the question. The question has 3 bullet points, right? So one of the easiest way to manage your paragraphs, you can put or elaborate each point into 1 paragraph. So the activity you would take up would be paragraph 2 after the introduction. Reasons for your choice would be written in paragraph 3. And then ways to encourage would be written in paragraph 4. So each of these in different paragraphs, then you can have your peer for every paragraph. So PEER for the activity you would take up, another PEER for reasons for your choice, and another PEER for ways to encourage. We're going to have a look at examples after this. Okay, so if you are writing in 5 paragraphs, the easiest way to do that is to separate each point into 1 specific paragraph. Okay, if you are writing in 4 paragraphs, usually what you can do, bullet point 1 and bullet point 2 can go in the same paragraph. And bullet point 3, another paragraph. So you have your 4 paragraphs lah. Betul tak? So introduction, these 2 bullet point in 1 paragraph, and then another paragraph for the 3rd bullet point, and then your conclusion. So up to you. 4 paragraphs would be okay. 5 paragraphs will also be okay. Okay, let's try. Let's have a look and we try, yeah? Okay, that's the question. I've done 1 peer for you. which is the first one, and activity you would take up. So how have I managed to elaborate using peer? So number one, first and foremost, an activity I would like to take up is reduce the use of plastic bags. So this is my point. Okay, point for the first bullet point tadi. And then E for elaboration. What's elaboration? As we know, plastic is one of the main causes affecting our environment. So this is my elaboration for my point. Okay, and then what's the example? I've given one example. For example, instead of using plastic bags, I can bring my own reusable bag when shopping. So my example for this point. And then I restate my topic sentence. I restate my point. Therefore, when I use less plastic, I can help reduce daily plastic usage that's harming our ecosystem. So this is my peer for the first bullet point and activity. Okay, so I've chosen the activity, reduce the use of plastic bags. I've given my elaboration why, and I've given example. So not to use plastic bags, but bring reusable bag. And then I've also restate. Restate means I paraphrase my point. And then what are the sentence connectors I've used? I have first and foremost. I have as we know. I have for example. I have therefore. So I have 4 sentence connectors in one paragraph. Okay, so now I want you to try for the second paragraph. Second paragraph is the reasons for choosing this activity. So what's interesting is when you are elaborating this one, you've given one reason. Why? Because plastic is one of the main causes affecting environment. Meaning here, you can only write one reason if you want to. If you want to give 2 reasons, also up to you. But let's start with one first. So I've given you an example why I want to choose not to use plastic bags because it's easy to practice. Can I get all of you to just let's take about 3 minutes to come out with the EER. I've given the point. I only want you to do the elaboration, the example, and the restate. Okay, someone has a question. Let me see. Does that mean we have to do 2 peer in one paragraph? No, only one, Faiz. Okay, I've answered live, yeah? What I meant by peer is for one bullet point. So as you can see, this one, the first bullet point, I'll go back to the question balik. Okay, so this is the first bullet point, right? I've separated this one, the activity, in one paragraph. So I have one peer. So second one, reasons for your choice. This is the second paragraph. I have another peer. And then the third paragraph, ways to encourage others to care about the environment. So I have another peer. So only one peer per paragraph. Can? Not easy to decode. Very good, Asfa. Okay, let's try, everybody. Let's try. Okay, if I've given you the reason why I want to use less plastic bags because it's easy to practice. Let's start with elaboration first. What can you say? What would your elaboration be? Easy to practice. Can we try and type in the chat box? If I say the point is, this is because this is something, alamak, I dah tunjuk the jawapan. Okay, let's not go there yet. So here, it's easy to practice. So what would your elaboration be? If the point is not using plastic bags is something that is easy to practice. Yes, very good, Faiz. So your elaboration can be, this is because reusable bags are sold everywhere. Very good. Okay, you want to look at the question again. Okay, let's look at the question again. So number 2, we are now focusing on point number 2, yeah? Reasons for your choice. What is your reason for choosing this activity? So for tonight, I've chosen the activity to not use plastic bags. So that's my reason. That's my activity. And I'm asking all of you to come up with reasons now. Okay, so let's go back. As Faiz has mentioned there, elaboration would be because reusable bags are sold everywhere. Very good, Faiz. Any other elaboration that anyone else would like to try? So if the reason because it's easy to practice, that's the point. What other elaboration can you give? What else? Anyone would like to try? Let's look at another one. Okay, we want to take a 5 minutes break. All right, let's take a 5 minutes break and let you think. Okay, I'm going to give you a 5 minutes break and then we will come back to this. So while we're on a break, you can think about elaborating this, okay? All right, so we'll take a 5 minutes break. Okay, everyone?
Hi everyone, it's Fabi from YouTube, and this video is brought to you in collaboration with Maxis eKelas, SPM Klinik, #Hebat dalam exam. So Maxis reached out to me and asked this really interesting question of what are the things that you wish you knew while preparing for SPM? I thought that was a really cool question. I got really excited and wrote a really long script for it, but obviously I can't be telling you every single thing that I wrote because we don't have enough time. So instead, I summarized it into 3 main points, and let's crack on with that. The first point is that SPM non-language subjects are not tests of intelligence. What that means is these exams are not put in place to see whether or not you are a genius, whether or not you are a genius in chemistry or history or whatsoever. Instead, these are tests of proficiency. So how well versed you are with the subject within the scope of syllabus in play. So in the chemistry syllabus, how well versed you are with the syllabus itself. To summarize it, to make it as clear as possible, if that was in any way messy for you, you just have to practice. You just have to keep doing questions, keep doing as many past year questions as possible, keep doing so many questions to the extent that it's impossible for you to have it's impossible for you to meet a question that is new that you haven't seen before. That is the point out of which you know for sure that you are going to get an A+ for the paper. So a quick tip under this point is reduce your reading. Stop just picking up your reference books and just reading and reading and reading. Instead, and also highlighting. I mean, come on, we all know that one friend who highlights everything. But instead, reduce reading and do more. Like get yourself, pick up a pencil and start writing more. The more you write, the better. And also, every time you get a question wrong, it's a good thing. Because when you get it wrong, it means that you're not going to get it wrong again for the actual exam, the SPM exam. So keep practicing, keep working, keep doing until you can't take it anymore. And when you realize you can't take it anymore, remind yourself that no more excuses, get back on the grind set and continue doing it and doing it and doing it. It's only going to be a few more months and then you're going to be cool. Everything's going to be fine. So the second tip that I have for you is a bit more specific towards moral, political and moral. If you don't know what's going on with political and moral, if you don't know how to answer the questions, if your teachers didn't sit you down and tell you a specific way to answer these questions and didn't tell you that this is the only way that is right, or didn't tell you that this is what they're expecting, try to get your administration to get in contact with other teachers from MRSM, from SBP, teachers who are giving out workshops for moral. These are teachers who know what's going on with moral, because not enough information is being spread about moral. In moral, you don't know why you might have gotten, or why you would get an A- instead of an A. You won't know why you got an A instead of an A+. That's just how moral is. So you have to make sure that someone who knows how morals marking, scheme marking, like methods work, and you have to get them to explain it to you. So if you don't have these facilities nearby, reach out. It's unfortunate that you might not have these facilities. It's unfortunate that the system is like that. But let's not blame the system and let's just work on our own. Let's make sure that we get that A+ together. And the third tip, I think, is the most important tip for all of you who are still learning, who still have classes and have teachers teaching you things. And I'm going to be very cliche. I'm going to read a quote right now, but I think it's an amazing quote nonetheless. The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute, and the man who does not ask is a fool for life. Be that fool for a minute. Please don't be that fool for life, because I was a huge fool back in school. In class, students get annoyed because I keep asking questions. Every single week, I'll have at least once where people are just like, he's asking again. And if you know a friend who's like that, yeah, we all know the frustration that we have against this one person. But trust me, be that one person, because when you keep asking questions, you'll come to a point where no questions have to be asked anymore. All the question marks in your head have to be answered. And if it means that you're going to look like a fool for a minute, let it just be that fool for a minute. That's honestly all from me. I think these three principles can bring you quite far when it comes to SPM examinations. And be as honest as possible. I don't know if enough people are telling you this, but SPM is easy. And I'm not just trying to make it seem like it's easy. It really is. It isn't as complicated as people tend to make it seem. Just be confident with yourself and make sure that you've done enough work. Be confident that you've worked enough, and SPM will pass like a breeze. This is an easy examination. Don't stress too much. And I know for a fact that all of you will do well. So I can't wait to meet a lot of you, and I hope a lot of you in France very, very soon. Ciao.
Okay, everybody. So I like what the message that was shared just now. SPM is actually not difficult. As long as you have enough preparation, then you are good to go. Okay, can we get back to our peer? Let me just share my screen again, okay? Okay, so I've made one for you, just in the interest of time. Okay, let's look at how we elaborate here. Do not worry if you feel like it's still something that is not easy for you to grasp, because it takes practice. After this, with the handouts and the homework that I've assigned to you, you can have your time, look at the notes again, and try to do it on your own. Because with practice, this would come easy for you. Okay, so now let's have a look at the question at our peer board again. Okay, can you see everybody? Right? Okay, yes, don't worry. The module, the slides, everything will be shared in Maxis eKelas, okay? You don't have to worry about that. So, just now, I gave you the point easy to practice. And Faiz has cleverly mentioned the elaboration. What would be easy to practice elaboration? Because reusable bags are sold everywhere. Now, here's my elaboration for you, okay? So for the point, easy to practice, I've elaborated in such ways. Number one, next, I chose this activity because it is doable for me as a student. So this is my extension of the point, yeah? You can just stop and say, next, I choose this activity because it's easy to practice. It's still correct. What would be the elaboration? Because just now, this is only the point. Elaboration would be, this is because. Remember, when we have elaboration, we have the linker, this is because. So, doable means yes, you can do. Doable means you can do it. Easy for you to do. Doable, okay? So that's a new word for you. This is because students are amongst the highest number of consumers, especially when it comes to buying school supplies from the supermarkets. Okay, I know you may say that, oh, this is very long. I cannot write sentences like this. That's okay, because this is a sample. A sample is meant to educate you. So it may seem long, but you can come out with something simple. For example, you can just say, this is because students shop a lot and therefore they use a lot of plastic bags. Still the same meaning, right? But this is better phrased. And then what would your example be? Your example for this reason, easy to practice, evidently, the more we purchase, the more plastic we use, unless we bring our own reusable bag. So here you can give example by using the sentence connector evidently. Evidently means in evidence, there's evidence. All right, students use a lot of plastic bags. So that's why you say here, it's easy to practice, especially as a student. Example, you can also give example like, for example, if you shop at stores like Typo, or if you go to Tesco, you have the option of buying a reusable bag. So now that's another good example where you can put here in the E. Finally, you want to restate the point. You want to restate what you mean by is easy to practice. So you can say, oh, Prada bag, okay. Plus, students can purchase fashionable reusable bags from any stores at an affordable price. So again, because my focus here is student, easy to practice as student. In my final sentence for this paragraph, I also mentioned student. So you see, the point will have the same words with the restate, the R. So P and R, they are related. They are actually the same thing, but you are just using different sentence to show them. Okay, so like this, you say you want to reduce the use of plastic bags. In the P and the R you mentioned, because you reduce daily plastic usage will stop harming ecosystem. So again, P and R, they are related. If you feel like I don't know how to do R, just remember P and R are related, but you are writing them using different sentences. Okay, what's most important is when you have elaboration, when you have example. Right. Any question before we go on to the third point? Meaning here, these are all different paragraphs, yeah? So this is one paragraph, all peer talking about an activity. This is a different paragraph, all the peer talking about reasons for choosing. And we are going to move on to another paragraph, all the peer, all the columns here talk about ways to encourage others. Any questions before we move on? Anything? Anything so far? I think I've got one Q&A. Teacher, if the points are 2, is it going to be complicated then? What do you mean, Shah? It is not complicated because you just make sure that each bullet point in the question will be addressed in different paragraph. So the first bullet point in one paragraph, one peer. The second bullet point, reasons for the activity, another paragraph, another peer. And then the third bullet point, ways to encourage others, another paragraph, another peer. Okay, so again, as I've mentioned, if you try out the exercises I've provided in the homework, you will be able to understand peer better. Okay, it needs practice. Again, don't be scared, don't feel daunted, it needs practice. Okay, for example, the question shown activities instead of activity. Oh, it's not very difficult. For example, you can say, I want to reduce the use of plastic bags and shop less. So you've got 2 activities there. 2 activities, but they can all be the same elaboration, the same example. So just by mentioning the activities in the beginning, you will already get points for content. I think when you do the exercises I provided, there's a question on plural. So you will get a hang of that. Okay? All right, so let's move on because in the interest of time, we also want to look at intro and conclusion. So I'm going to show you how you elaborate the third one, okay? Okay, all right. So let's read. We've looked at peer 1, an activity, peer 2, reasons for choosing, peer 3, ways to encourage others. So I'm going to read the point first. The point is, finally, some ways to encourage others include to create an awareness. So you may say, but this is only one way. Wait for it. We're going to go to the example. All right. So the elaboration, the E, elaboration. As we know, one of the most effective ways to educate others about the importance of protecting the environment is by creating an awareness. So the blue one, this is the elaboration. Next, we go to example. For example, we can organize campaigns or competitions. So you've given 2 ways there. Organize campaigns 1, organize competitions. So 2 ways. Okay, they may both mean to create an awareness, but you've given 2 ways. Okay, so that's more than enough. For example, we can organize campaigns or competitions that focus on saving the environment, where people can take part and even win prizes. So point, elaboration in blue, example in green. Now, how you restate your point? Why are they both red? Again, because remember, P and R, they are related. By doing this, people will pass on the important message of why we should protect Mother Nature. So, important message, same meaning as creating an awareness. Okay? So when you do your homework, you can always refer to peer and try to come up on your own so that when we discuss, we will have a look at your peer and I can give comments. All right. So I'm going to answer a few Q&A about peer before we go to intro and conclusion. Intro and conclusion, very simple, very short. Again, you will get a chance to try out intro and conclusion in the homework. Oh, all right. So anonymous, S is not for conclusion. Yeah, S is for sentence connectors. I'll just go back very quickly. Again, S is not part of the paragraph. It's just a reminder that you have sentence connectors in every paragraph. So if you go back and look at the points, look at the slides again, you will notice in every paragraph, in every peer, I have at least 3 sentence connectors. Okay, all right. So that's one. Now, enough about peer. We're going to quickly go to intro and conclusion. These are notes for you. Again, for your revision, these are all sentence connectors you can use in your peer. All right, all these when you are giving introduction, when you want to introduce new idea, when you want to give conclusion, or you want to sequence all this for you. Okay, there are numerous. Right, so peer, there you go. Okay, this one is for your own reading as well. These are just notes. In case you have writer's block, what you should do. These are just a summary of what we've looked at in tonight's class about peer. So I want you to focus on number 2. In case you find it challenging to elaborate peer, you can just use PER. What's PER? Number 1, you can combine both elaboration and example in one paragraph. Or number 2, you can choose. Either you want to talk about elaboration only, or you want to give example only in that paragraph. Also okay, in case that you're really struggling with writer's block and you're racing against time during the exam. So if you cannot come up with peer like this, you have 2 more options. PER, you combine elaboration and example. Another one is just you choose either elaboration or example. So this one you can read on your own and try to understand. If you have any questions, we have Telegram session on Saturday. We can talk about that a bit more. Okay? All right. So very quickly, I'm going to go to introduction now. Okay, we've taken a break. So I guess we're good. Right. How to write intro and conclusion. Okay, a few seconds. Read on your own. 3 things, yeah, in introduction. I'm racing against time now. So okay. Read on your own for a bit while I look at the Q&A. Okay. Some of you may have questions and I will address them in the Q&A box. Yeah. Okay, so now, what do you need to have in introduction? Minimum 3 sentences in introduction. All right, you've got the hook, 1 sentence. They can be general statement or a question. So general statement can be anything about the topic, anything general, or you can ask with a question. I'm sure it's also similar like BM. You begin with a question. But if you cannot do that, you cannot think of a question, just a general statement for sentence 1, hook. Sentence 2, background information. So just now you give general statement about topic, something general about environment. The background info, you become more specific. You talk about something that's related to the topic and the question. That's more specific. Finally, thesis statement, very important. The most specific details about what you will talk about in the essay. So you answer what the question 1. Let's look at an example. Okay, so everyone, I'm going to look at this. These are 3 sentences, but they are not in the right order. They are jumbled up. Can you quickly type in the chat box which one is the hook Remember, which one is the background info? And most importantly, which one is the thesis statement? So you can write in the chat box whether it's 213 or 123 or 312. So read first, identify them, write in the chat box. Okay, I've got 231. What's the order here? We've got 231. 231. Do we have a different sequence? Yes, you are right. It's 231. Okay, let's have a look. Remember, your introduction must begin with a hook. A hook can be a general statement, can be a question. So which one is a question? Number 2. Do you know that our Earth is on the edge of its extinction? So that's a hook. Now, background info is something that's a bit more specific about the topic. So number 3 is the background info. Due to human irresponsible actions, the environment is faced with new threats every day, unless we make it a priority to protect our home. So you talk about the problem with environment, and then you become more specific because the topic wants you to talk about how you can help protect the environment. So you say, unless we make it a priority to protect our home. And finally, this is what I meant by thesis statement. Thesis statement, you always start with, this essay will outline a practice. Or you can say, in this essay, I will talk about a practice that I would take up to help care for the environment, which is to reduce the use of plastic bags. So thesis statement is you talk about what will this essay be about. You can use this phrase, this essay will outline, or you can also say, let's look at the previous one, yeah? Okay. Or you can also say like this, in this essay, I am going to talk about a practice. So that's a thesis statement. You tell the examiner what your essay is going to be about. Okay? So 3 things for introduction. Now, very quickly, let's go to conclusion. Introduction, you've got 3 sentences. Conclusion, only 2. And very simple. What do you have in conclusion? The summary, you summarize using in conclusion or to sum up or to summarize. So these are some sentence connectors you can use. And then you rephrase your introduction. So you can choose any part of your intro, you rephrase them. Let's look at the example, yeah? This one, you can do it as homework. This is actually jumbled up words, so you can try this as homework. This is a conclusion. Number 1, you sum up the points. In conclusion, I believe that I am doing Mother Nature a huge favor by taking the small step of not using plastic bags when shopping. So you summarize, because your essay is about not using plastic bags, right? And then you rephrase the whole introduction. This one, I know you might be a bit confused about this, but don't worry. We will address this during the Telegram session. In order for us to ensure that the future generation will be guaranteed clean air to breathe or fresh waters to drink, we have to start caring for the environment now before it's too late. So in conclusion, you do not introduce any new examples, no new elaboration. It's all just about summarizing, and only in 2 sentences would be enough. Okay, so introduction, 3 sentences, hook, background info, thesis statement, and conclusion, only 2 sentences. Summary, sum up all the points, and then you rephrase any part of the intro. So conclusion and introduction, they are related. Okay, we've come to the end of the class. Now I'm going to look at these are more notes for you, okay? I know I'm going really fast with introduction and conclusion, but don't worry, during the Telegram session, I will spend a little bit more time on intro and conclusion. But intro and conclusion, they're very simple. You don't have to worry about that. You read the notes and you'll be able to understand. Okay? All right. Okay, let's look at the questions before we end the session. So Shah has asked, can I use this introduction technique in other parts? Shah, the introduction technique, you can, but it's best if for the points, the bullet points, you use peer technique. So introduction, you have 3 sentences using the 3 techniques. And then for the body, you have the peer, and conclusion, 2 sentences. So all the parts of the essay, you have different techniques to cater to. Okay, so any other question? Is trip to Pulau Redang is incorrect? Trip to Pulau Redang is correct, yes. A trip to Pulau Redang, I think that's acceptable. Pulau Redang because it's a proper noun, kata nama khas. So you don't really have to translate Pulau Redang. Okay, you can say Redang Island, but Pulau Redang is not wrong. Okay, so any questions before I end, everybody? Can this technique be used for part 1 and part 3? For part 3, you will be able to apply the same technique for article and report. You can use that. I don't do BM class. I'm so sorry. I only do English, Kanchana. Okay. Part 1, if you go to Maxis eKelas, you can watch my video on using gates for email. So for part 1, we've got gates. Part 2, we've got peer. I know part 2 is a bit more complicated because naturally, it's longer and a bit more rigid with the marking. So read the notes, try out the exercises. On Saturday, when I see you, we will start with introduction and conclusion. Okay, so it's a date. Saturday, we start with intro and conclusion. Then we move on to peer. All right. Oh, you asked a question, yeah, Harinita. What's your question? Let me see. Before we end. Oh, the Telegram link. Okay, our moderator has shared the link. Maybe our moderator can share again in the chat box. So if you need the Telegram link, you want the link to register to check out the schedule for other classes, then it will be shared by our moderator in the chat box, yeah? Okay. All right, I'm going to entertain one more last question. You can use idiom. Yes, you can use idioms, but make sure you use them appropriately. If you use them, but they are not, they doesn't sound right, they're out of context, so you may be penalized. So idioms are not compulsory. If you want to use them, you can, but make sure they are the right idiom. Okay? All right, so we are going to stop now. I will see you on Saturday for you to try out. Please try out the homework that I have assigned to you. So then you will be able to understand better. Okay? So yes, our moderator has shared the link for you to access to my homework as well as other subjects as well. All right, I'm going to see you again on Saturday at 10:30, everyone, on Telegram. We'll discuss the homework. Thank you so much. You guys have been great sport tonight. So we'll see you again. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you.
Hai semua, terima kasih untuk cikgu atas semua ilmu yang dikongsikan dan juga kepada semua pelajar atas penyertaan dan perhatian anda dalam tutorial ini. Sebelum anda keluar, sila imbas QR code atau klik pautan yang ada di dalam link dan isikan borang kehadiran serta borang maklum balas untuk menunjukkan kehadiran anda dan berpeluang memenangi sesi pilihan chat anda bersama Tutors in Action. Kita telah pun sampai ke sesi penghujung tutorial secara langsung ini. Ingat, kita akan mengadakan satu sesi Telegram Live pada hari Sabtu jam 10.30 pagi sehingga 11.30 pagi untuk membincangkan latihan yang diberikan untuk hari ini. Sesi tutorial langsung ini akan dijalankan sehingga bulan Januari. So, jumpa nanti. Sekian saja sesi untuk hari ini. Bagi pihak Maxis eKelas, kami ingin mengucapkan selamat berjaya pada semua pelajar SPM. Teruskan berusaha keras. Terima kasih semua dan selamat berehat.